I was cheated by the daughter I raised and the wife I loved. But when they needed me, I was gone. Looking back, I suppose I should have seen it coming. The warning signs were there, subtle but persistent, like a slow leak in the foundation of a house you've lived in for decades. You notice the cracks, but you tell yourself they're minor, that nothing is wrong, that all the work, all the time, all the love you've poured into something will hold it together. I met Linda when I was in my late 20s, full of ambition and the kind of blind optimism that makes you believe love is enough to weather any storm. She was a single mother, raising Anna, who was just 5 years old when we started dating. I didn't just fall for Linda, I fell for Anna too, a little girl with big brown eyes and a gap-toothed smile, who clung to her mother's hand like the world would swallow her whole if she let go. Her biological father, Eric, was a ghost in their lives. There, but not really. He'd show up once in a blue moon, just long enough to make some grand promise. "And next summer, we'll go to Disney World," he'd say. "And I'll get you that bike for your birthday. I love you, sweetheart. Daddy will be around more, I promise." But he never followed through, and each time he left, I saw the way it broke her. I wasn't trying to replace him. I never once told her, "Forget about him, I'm your father now." No, that wasn't how it worked. I was just there, the man who stayed, the one who helped with school projects, who carried her on my shoulders at the fair, who taught her how to tie her shoes. The first time she called me on Dad, I was caught off guard. We were in the backyard, her tiny hands clutching a jump rope, her face scrunched in frustration because she couldn't quite get the rhythm right. "Dad, help me," she said. I froze. "Dad." I hadn't expected it, but hearing it come out of her mouth made something deep inside me settle. From that moment on, she never stopped calling me that. The years that followed were full of sacrifices I never thought twice about. When she had her first dance recital, it was me who stayed up late helping her rehearse, counting beats, clapping along to the music in the living room. When she had the flu at 3 in the morning, it was me holding her while Linda ran for the thermometer. When she got bullied in middle school, I was the one who sat her down and told her she was stronger than she thought. By the time she was a teenager, I had accepted fatherhood as part of my identity. Not by blood, no, but in every way that mattered. So, when she got into college, I didn't hesitate to help pay for it. I wanted to give her the kind of opportunities I never had. I covered tuition, books, rent, everything I could. I worked extra hours, picked up side projects. Not once did I think about what I was sacrificing, because that's what fathers do, right? Linda and I built a life together, a comfortable one, or at least that's what I thought. We had a house with a backyard, family vacations, Christmas mornings filled with laughter and gifts under the tree. We weren't perfect, but we were a family. And yet, something changed in the last few years. Small things at first. Linda got distant, less affectionate, more secretive. I'd catch her staring at her phone late at night, quickly turning off the screen when I walked in. I told myself it was nothing. Stress, work, maybe she just needed space. And Anna, she started pulling away too. Our late-night talks became fewer. She still called me and Dad, but something in her voice sounded different, forced maybe, like she was saying it out of habit rather than love. I should have paid attention, because what happened next proved just how blind I had been. The moment I should have realized everything had changed was a conversation in the kitchen, just a few weeks before Anna's wedding. I was washing dishes when Linda casually mentioned, "Tiono, David is coming over later." I frowned, setting the plate down. "David? Who's David?" She smiled too easily. "Undie, friend of Anna's." "Well, a friend of mine too. He's been helping with some of the wedding planning. A friend." I let it go at the time, didn't think much of it. I was too busy working extra shifts to make sure the wedding was perfect, too busy picking up loose ends when vendors were late or payments needed. To be made, too busy being the husband and father I thought I was supposed to be. Too busy to notice I was already being replaced. Then came the wedding invitation. I opened it with a smile, expecting to see my name listed as the one giving Anna away. But it wasn't there. Instead, it read, "Aunt Anna will be walked down the aisle by David." I felt the air leave my lungs. David. That friend Linda mentioned so casually. That man I had never even met. Replaced. Just like that. I went to Linda, holding the invitation in my hands. "What is this?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. She sighed, as if she had expected this conversation. Anna made her decision, honey. She wanted David to walk her down the aisle. He's been really supportive through this process. I blinked. Supportive? Supportive? I had been supportive for 20 years. I had been there for every scraped knee, every sleepless night, every tear-filled phone call. And now I was just a guest at my own daughter's wedding. That moment was when something inside me cracked. I had always thought that love and loyalty were enough, that if you gave everything to your family, they would see it, appreciate it, honor it. But that wasn't true, because after 20 years, after every sacrifice, every late night, every extra shift, I was disposable. I was nothing. And I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. I should have known something was wrong when the wedding planning started. I should have seen the signs. But when you've spent decades pouring yourself into a family, when you've spent years sacrificing, working, and believing you are valued, you don't expect to suddenly be an outsider in your own home. I remember the first conversation about the wedding like it was yesterday. Anna and Linda were sitting at the dining table, flipping through wedding magazines, their laughter filling the room. I had just come home from work, tired but happy. It was a moment I had always dreamed of, helping my daughter plan her big day, being the proud father who would walk her down the aisle, giving her away to the man she loved. I kissed Linda on the cheek, then ruffled Anna's hair like I used to when she was little. How's the planning going?" I asked, grabbing a drink from the fridge. Anna barely looked up. "Good." That was it. No excitement, no warmth. Linda gave me a forced smile. "There's still a lot to do, but it's coming together." I sat down, eager to be involved. "Well, let me know what you need me to do. I want to help however I can." Linda and Anna exchanged a quick glance, one of those silent, knowing looks people give each other when they're hiding something. It was subtle, but it was enough to make my stomach twist. "Oh, we've got it under control," Linda said quickly. "Oh, but thank you, honey." That was the first red flag. The next one came a few days later. I had taken the morning off work to meet with the venue coordinator. Anna had told me she wanted something elegant but not overly extravagant, and I wanted to make sure she got exactly that. I showed up early, dressed in a suit, ready to sign whatever contract was needed. But when I got there, the meeting had already taken place. "Mr. Carter, I didn't expect to see you here," the coordinator said, flipping through some papers. Your wife and David handled everything yesterday." I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. "I'm sorry, who?" "David," she replied. "Saying he's been coordinating most of the wedding details with your wife." I clenched my jaw. David, that name again. I walked out of the venue, my hands shaking. I didn't go back to work that day. Instead, I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard, trying to process what the hell was happening. Who was David, and why was he more involved in my daughter's wedding than I was? That night, I confronted Linda. She was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine, when I walked in. "Who is David?" I asked, my voice calm but firm. Linda barely hesitated. "A friend. He's been helping with the wedding, that's all." I didn't believe her. I could see it in her eyes, the way she avoided looking at me directly, the way her fingers tightened around the wine glass. "Why is he making decisions about our daughter's wedding instead of me?" Linda sighed, as if I was overreacting. "Oh, you've been busy, honey. I didn't think you'd mind. Busy." That was her excuse. "So you didn't think I'd mind missing a meeting about my own daughter's wedding? You didn't think I'd mind some other man handling things that should have been my responsibility?" She set her glass down. "Oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing," she said, her voice sharp, defensive. I stood there, my pulse hammering, staring at the woman I had spent 2 decades of my life with. I had always trusted Linda, always believed she had my back, but now for the first time I felt like I didn't know her at all. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was overthinking things. But then the biggest red flag of them all arrived in the mail, the wedding invitation. I remember the exact moment I opened it. I had just come home from work, exhausted from another long shift. The envelope sat neatly on the counter, my name written on the front. I opened it with a small smile, expecting to see my name proudly displayed under father of the bride, but it wasn't there. Instead, I saw something that made my blood run cold. "Oh, and Anna will be walked down the aisle by David." My hands shook as I read it again and again. Surely this was a mistake. Surely there was a mix-up. I stormed into the living room, where Linda was casually watching TV, her feet propped up like nothing was wrong. I threw the invitation onto the coffee table. "Explain this." She barely glanced at it. "What's the problem?" I felt my chest tighten. "Are you joking, Linda? Who the hell is David, and why is he walking our daughter down the aisle instead of me?" Linda sighed, rolling her eyes as if I was being unreasonable. "Anna made her choice. You need to respect it." "Ain't to respect it." My voice rose. "I've been raising her for 20 years. I've been there for everything. Who is this man to her? Why would she choose him over me?" Linda finally looked at me, and for the first time, I saw it. The shift, the change, the way she saw me not as a husband, not as the father of her child, but as someone replaceable. "David has been very supportive," she said coldly. "Anna feels more comfortable with him." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. More comfortable? More comfortable with a man she had known for 6 months? A year? Over the father who raised her? I stared at her, searching for some kind of regret in her eyes. Some sign that she knew this was wrong, that she knew this was cruel. But there was nothing, just indifference. That night, I sat alone in my car, parked outside our house, unable to bring myself to go back inside. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had lost everything before I even knew it was slipping away. The realization hit me like a freight train. I wasn't part of their world anymore. And the worst part? They didn't even care. I looked at my wedding ring, twisting it between my fingers, remembering the vows Linda and I had made. How had we ended up here? But I already knew the answer. I just hadn't been ready to accept it yet. I used to think there were certain moments in life that defined relationships, the milestones that bonded families together, birthdays, graduations, and yes, weddings. A wedding is supposed to be one of the most important days in a father's life, a day where a father walks his daughter down the aisle, feeling a bittersweet mixture of pride and heartbreak, knowing that she's stepping into a new chapter. It's the moment a father is recognized, honored for the years of love, guidance, and sacrifice. But instead of standing at my daughter's side, instead of feeling that pride, I sat in the crowd, watching another man walk her down the aisle. I remember the morning of the wedding too well. I woke up early, feeling a sense of unease that sat heavy in my chest. There was no excitement in me, only dread. Maybe a part of me had still hoped that Anna would change her mind, that she would realize who truly deserved that moment beside her. I got dressed in the suit I had bought specifically for this day. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie, staring at the reflection of a man I barely recognized. A man who had given everything, only to be discarded when it mattered most. I thought about backing out, skipping the wedding entirely, but that would mean admitting defeat. That would mean letting them erase me completely, so I went. The venue was beautiful, I'll admit that much. A grand outdoor setup with crisp white flowers lining the aisle, the soft melody of a violin playing in the background. It was perfect, and I had helped pay for it. I took my seat near the middle, not in the front where the father of the bride should have been, but among distant relatives and family friends. A few guests gave me odd looks, probably wondering why I wasn't up there, standing proudly by my daughter's side. Then the music changed. The moment came. Everyone stood as Anna appeared at the end of the aisle. She looked radiant, breathtaking even, her white dress flowing around her like a dream. For a split second, I felt that fatherly pride again, until I saw who was standing beside her. David, the man who had stolen my place. He walked her down the aisle with a self-satisfied smirk on his face, like he belonged there, like he had been the one to raise her, to guide her through life, like he had earned it. And Anna, she smiled at him. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to breathe. I refused to make a scene, refused to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing me break. But inside, I was falling apart. I was watching the last 2 decades of my life being erased in real time. The ceremony felt like a blur. I heard the vows, the laughter, the applause, but it all sounded distant, like I was underwater. My mind kept replaying all the moments that led up to this. The sleepless nights, the scraped knees I had bandaged, the college bills I had paid. And for what? To be a footnote in my own daughter's wedding. The worst part came during the speeches. I held on to a tiny shred of hope that maybe, just maybe, Anna would acknowledge me in some way, that she would look at me, thank me, let me know that even though she had chosen another man to walk her down the aisle, she still saw me as her father. But that moment never came. David gave his speech first, talking about how honored he was to stand beside Anna on her special day, how much she meant to him, how proud he was of the woman she had become. The room erupted in applause. Then Linda spoke, gushing about how much David had supported Anna, how much he had stepped up for their family. And me? Not a single mention, not a word. I sat there, my chest tight, waiting for someone, anyone, to acknowledge the fact that I had been the one who had raised her, that I had been the one who had sacrificed everything. But I was invisible. After the ceremony, I left. I didn't wait for the cake. I didn't stay for the dancing. I didn't shake hands or pretend to smile. I walked out of that venue, got into my car, and sat in silence. The weight of it all pressed down on me. 20 years of my life gone, just like that. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at nothing, feeling the kind of pain that no words could fully describe. Eventually, my phone buzzed. A text from Linda, "Where did you go? The reception is starting." I almost laughed. Where did I go? I stared at my phone, debating whether to respond. Then another text came. Anna is wondering why you left early. I felt something in me snap. I typed back a simple response. Why tell her to ask David? Then I turned off my phone. I went home that night feeling hollow. I poured myself a drink, sat on the couch, and stared at the family photos on the wall. Our life together, our memories. They all felt like a lie now. I thought about ripping them down, about erasing them the way they had erased me, but I didn't. Because despite everything, I still loved my daughter. I just wasn't sure if she loved me back, or if she ever really had. That night, I made a decision. I had spent years giving and giving, always being the one to fix things, to hold everyone together. Not anymore. For the first time, I was done being used, done being overlooked, done being a backup plan when things didn't go their way. I didn't know what the future would look like after this, but one thing was certain. I was finished being the man who was always expected to give without ever being given anything in return. I didn't expect to hear from Anna so soon after the wedding. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to. I had spent the entire night replaying everything that had happened, every word, every glance, every humiliating moment where I sat there, unnoticed, unimportant. I went through every painful memory, every sacrifice, and wondered, had it all been for nothing? And yet, deep down, there was a small, foolish part of me that hoped maybe, just maybe, Anna would call. That maybe she would realize what she had done, that she would apologize, even if it was just a small acknowledgement that she had hurt me. But when my phone rang the next day, it wasn't an apology. It was another request for money. I was sitting in the living room, still exhausted, staring at the wedding invitation I had thrown onto the coffee table the night before. The name Avid still stared back at me, mocking me. Then my phone buzzed. I saw Anna's name on the screen. I let it ring a few times, debating whether to answer. Then, against my better judgment, I picked up. "Hello, Dad." Her voice was bright, cheerful, like nothing had happened. "And so are you." I gritted my teeth. "I'm fine." There was a brief pause, then she launched into a full breakdown of the honeymoon. "Oh my God, Dad, the trip was amazing. The beach was gorgeous. And the resort, wow, you wouldn't believe the view from our room. Brian even surprised me with a private dinner under the stars. It was so romantic." I sat there, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. She didn't mention the wedding. She didn't mention the fact that she had replaced me with a man she had barely known. I felt like I was suffocating, listening to her gush about her perfect life, knowing how little I had meant to her in the moment that was supposed to be one of the most important of our lives. And then she finally got to the point. "Dad, I actually needed a little favor." There it was. I closed my eyes, already knowing where this was going. "What favor?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Well," she hesitated for a second, then laughed like it was no big deal. "And there were a few unexpected expenses on the honeymoon, and we're a little short on cash this month. Could you help us out?" For a moment, I said nothing. I let her words sink in, let the sheer audacity of her request settle into my bones. This girl, this woman I had raised, had tossed me aside at her wedding, ignored me in every meaningful way, and now she was coming to me for money. I exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry, Anna. I can't help you this time." Silence, then a soft laugh. "Oh, Dad, come on. You've always helped me before." I gritted my teeth. "Why, yeah, I have." Another pause, then cautiously she asked, "Is this about the wedding?" I felt my blood boil. "You mean the wedding where I was treated like an afterthought? The wedding where another man walked you down the aisle while I sat in the crowd like a stranger?" "Dad," she sighed. "It wasn't personal." "Not personal? Not personal?" I leaned forward, my grip tightening on the phone. If it wasn't personal, then why did it feel like I was being erased? Why did it feel like my entire life, every sacrifice I ever made for you, was just nothing? She didn't answer. For the first time, maybe ever, Anna had nothing to say. Then, after a long moment, her voice came through, softer this time. "So I understand." And then she hung up. No argument, no apology, just a quiet click, and then nothing. Linda's outrage followed soon after. I barely had time to process what had just happened before my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Linda. I already knew why she was calling. I answered, waiting for the explosion. "Do you refuse to help her?" she snapped before I could even say hello. I exhaled slowly. "Yes, I did." "So are you serious?" she hissed. "She's your daughter, for God's sake. She needed help, and you just turned your back on her." I stood up, pacing the room, my frustration boiling over. "No, Linda, she turned her back on me first. Or did you forget that she chose David over me? That she let me sit there like I was a nobody?" "'T was her wedding," Linda shot back. "She had every right to choose who walked her down the aisle. And I have every right to choose who I support," I said coldly. Silence. Then, in a voice full of anger and disbelief, Linda muttered, "I can't believe how cruel you're being." I laughed bitterly. "Cruel, Linda? What's cruel is spending 2 decades raising a daughter only to be discarded like I was never there. What's cruel is standing by while you let another man take my place and then expecting me to pretend like it never happened." She was quiet for a long moment. Then finally she said, "She's our daughter. Blood comes first." And there it was, the truth I had been ignoring. To Linda, blood came first, even if that blood had done nothing, even if that blood had been absent, unreliable, and undeserving. I took a slow, deep breath, and then said the words I had been holding back for years, and then let her real father help her. And I hung up. That night, I sat on the couch, staring at the dark screen of my phone. I knew this wasn't over. I knew that Linda would never forgive me for this, that Anna would likely never see me the same way again. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. For 2 decades, I had been the provider, the fixer, the man who always said yes. And now I was done. Because if I had learned anything from this, it was that some people only see your worth when they need something from you. And I had finally learned how to say no. There was a time when I thought I knew Linda better than anyone. 20 years of marriage, raising a child together, building a life, how could I not? But the truth was, I had been blind. I had spent so much time being the provider, the father, the husband, that I never noticed when things started to shift. Or maybe deep down I did notice. I just refused to believe it. After the wedding and the fallout with Anna, things between Linda and me changed. Or maybe they had already changed, and I was only now seeing it for what it was. She barely spoke to me. Her eyes were cold, her presence distant. Everything about her screamed resentment. And for what? Because I had finally stood up for myself? Because I had stopped being the ATM she had come to expect? I wasn't sure which was worse, the realization that my daughter had discarded me, or the slow sinking feeling that my wife had too. It started with late nights at work. At least that's what she claimed. Linda had never been one to stay out late. Even when Anna was grown, she liked being home by dinner, sipping a glass of wine while watching her favorite crime shows. But now, she was always out. "Teach's work is just crazy right now," she'd say when I asked. "Insa got so many projects coming up." Except Linda wasn't in the kind of job that required late-night meetings. And more than that, she had stopped caring about our home life altogether. She no longer asked about my day. She barely acknowledged when I walked into the room. She slept with her back to me. It was like I didn't exist. And maybe I didn't, to her at least. The first time I heard his name in a conversation that wasn't about the wedding, my stomach twisted. It was late at night. I had gotten up for a drink of water and passed the living room. Linda was on the phone. "Oh no, David, I don't think he suspects anything," she said. I froze. She laughed, soft, sweet, the way she used to laugh with me. "It's been a long time coming, honestly. I just need to find the right way to tell him." "Tell me what?" I stayed still, listening. I know. I wish you were here right now." And that was all I needed to hear. I backed away before she could notice me, feeling my heartbeat in my throat. David. The same David who had walked my daughter down the aisle. The same David who had helped with wedding plans I had been left out of. The same David who apparently had been helping himself to my wife too. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't say anything the next morning either. I needed proof, because when a man finally wakes up to reality, he doesn't just accuse, he confirms. So I started watching, paying attention, and sure enough, the cracks became canyons. The texts she hid, the way she suddenly dressed up more, the way she smiled at her phone. One night, I casually mentioned, hey, maybe we should have a weekend away together." Linda's response? A forced, hesitant smile. "So I don't think that's a good idea. Things are complicated right now." Complicated. Yeah, I bet they were. When I finally confronted her, she didn't even deny it. It was a Saturday. She had gotten home late again, and this time I didn't let it slide. "Where were you?" She barely looked at me. "And at work." "And don't lie to me, Linda." She sighed, like she was exhausted by me, like I was a burden. And then she said the words that changed everything. "I think we need to talk."
"Oh, I bet we did."
She sat down on the couch and folded her hands in her lap, as if she was some poor, trapped woman who just needed a way out. "I'd been seeing David." Just like that. No guilt, no hesitation, just a simple fact, like she was telling me what she had for lunch. I stared at her. "For how long?" She shrugged. A while. I felt my fists tighten. "So this was never just about Anna's wedding, was it? You weren't just being supportive of her decision. You were planning your own." She didn't even look ashamed. "I'm sorry, but things between us haven't been working for a long time." "Because you made sure of that." Her expression hardened. "Don't make this ugly." Ugly? She thought I was the one making this ugly. She had been sneaking around behind my back. She had let another man walk my daughter down the aisle. She had stolen the life we built and handed it to someone else. And now she wanted me to just accept it. "And what now?" I asked, my voice cold. She hesitated, but just for a second. Then, with a calmness that chilled me to the bone, she said, "He said, I think you should move out." Move out. From the house I had built. The house I had paid for. The home I had given my life to. I let out a slow, bitter laugh. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "On David and I, we want to start fresh. And honestly, this place holds too much history. I think it's best if you go." I stared at her, waiting for some sign that she was joking, that this was some kind of sick test. But there was nothing, just a woman who had already made up her mind. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I nodded. "Fine." I packed my bags that night. Linda didn't try to stop me. She didn't ask me to stay. And as I walked out that door for the last time, I realized something. I'd spent 20 years being a husband, being a father, being the man who always stayed, always fought, always gave. But now I was done. She had chosen David. She had chosen to erase me from our lives. And for the first time in a long time, I was choosing myself. I left without looking back. It wasn't easy walking away from 20 years of my life, from the house I had built, from the family I had devoted everything to. It should have shattered me, but it didn't. Because deep down, I wasn't leaving a home. I was leaving a lie. And as I drove away that night, I made myself one promise. I would never let them use me again. For the first few weeks, it was blissfully quiet. No arguments, no guilt tripping, no more being treated like I was just an inconvenience in my own life. I moved into a small apartment, something simple, something that was mine. The first few nights were strange. No Linda sighing in frustration, no cold glances over dinner, no forced small talk. Just peace. And for the first time in years, I started sleeping better. It took about a month before I heard anything about Linda and Anna's new reality. A mutual friend, one of the few who hadn't blindly taken their side, sent me a text. "Hey Che, just thought you should know. David isn't sticking around." I raised an eyebrow at the message, but I didn't respond. I wasn't surprised. I had known men like David my whole life. Charming, opportunistic, always looking for the next best thing. And I knew he wasn't in it for the long haul. He had gotten what he wanted. Linda at her most desperate, at her most willing to cling to anything new and exciting. But new and exciting fades fast. So I wasn't shocked when I got another message a few weeks later, and David's gone. Moved out last week. Linda isn't handling it well. Of course she wasn't. She had thrown away a 20-year marriage for a man who had never intended to stay, and now she was alone. I stayed out of it. I had no interest in checking in, no desire to fix things for them. But then another text came, this time about Anna and Brian are having money problems, big ones. That caught my attention. I had warned them. I had told them that one day they would need me again, but they didn't listen. And now they were drowning. It was a Thursday night when the call finally came. I saw Anna's name flash on my phone. I let it ring, then a voicemail. I stared at the screen for a moment before pressing play.
Dad, I know I haven't called in a while.
Things have been rough. Brian lost his job and we're struggling to make rent. I hate to ask, but could you help? Just this once? I leaned back, exhaling slowly. There it was. The moment I had been waiting for. The moment where reality finally set in for her. I didn't call back right away. I took my time, let her sit with the silence, the same way she had let me sit with my humiliation. Then, after a few hours, I finally picked up the phone and dialed. She answered immediately. Dad, son, I got your message, I said simply. A long pause. Yeah, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I let that sit for a moment before responding. Tana, do you remember your wedding day? She went silent. I continued. Do you remember sitting down with your mother and choosing David over me? Do you remember letting another man take my place in front of everyone we knew? And do you remember how, after everything I had done for you, you didn't even think to say thank you? Her voice was small. Dad, I was caught up in the moment. I didn't mean... Hey, but you did mean it, Anna. I let that hang in the air before saying the words I never thought I'd say, and I'm sorry, but I can't help you. The silence that followed was heavier than any I'd ever experienced. Then, finally, she spoke. I understand. And then she hung up. No argument, no begging, just resignation. The next day, it was Linda's turn. She didn't call, she showed up. I was coming back from the grocery store when I saw her standing outside my apartment building, arms crossed, a look of forced confidence on her face. I sighed, setting my bags down. What do you want, Linda? She wasted no time. You're really going to let your daughter struggle like this? I crossed my arms. That's funny. Where was this concern when she replaced me at her wedding? Her jaw tightened. That was different. No, it wasn't, I shot back. You and Anna made it clear that I was no longer part of your family. Now, when things are falling apart, you expect me to step in. Where's David? Oh wait, he's gone. She flinched, and for the first time in a long time, I saw real regret in her eyes. Annie and I made a mistake, she admitted quietly. And so I thought David was going to be there for us. I stared at her, feeling no sympathy, and I thought my wife and daughter actually cared about me. I picked up my groceries, walked past her, and shut the door behind me. I never looked back. That was the last time I heard from Linda. Anna didn't call again either. They had made their choices, and now they were living with them. I had spent 2 decades giving, sacrificing, and being the man who always showed up. And for what? To be thrown aside the moment I wasn't needed? No, not anymore. For the first time in my life, I had nothing left to give, and honestly, it felt damn good. It had been months since I had walked away. Months of silence, of peace, of rediscovering who I was without them. I hadn't expected them to reach out again after my final words to Linda outside my apartment. I had assumed she would finally let it go. That Anna would finally accept that the version of me who always said yes, who always fixed everything, who always put them first, was gone. But some people only learn when they have no other options left, and Linda and Anna were officially out of options. It was a Wednesday evening when I got the text. I was sitting in my chair reading a book, something I hadn't had time for in years when I was too busy cleaning up everyone else's messes. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, Anna. For a moment I debated ignoring it. I had already said everything I needed to say, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened the message. And Dad, can we talk? Please. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. I didn't answer right away. I let her sit in the silence for a while, the same silence she had let me sit in on her wedding day. After about an hour, I finally responded. Old about what? Her reply was almost instant. I just want to see you. I could tell she was being careful with her words. She wasn't asking for money, at least not yet. Maybe she had realized that I had changed. Maybe she knew she had no leverage anymore. Maybe she was desperate enough to try a different approach. I decided to meet her, not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted to see if she had truly learned anything. We met at the park, the same park where years ago I had taught her how to ride a bike. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting on a bench, fidgeting with her hands like she used to when she was nervous as a child. I approached slowly, keeping my emotions locked away. I refused to let her see anything other than calm indifference. She stood up as I got closer. For a second, it looked like she was going to hug me, but she hesitated. She knew things weren't the same anymore. Hey, Dad, she said, her voice uncertain. I nodded. Anna. We sat down. The silence stretched between us. She was the first to speak. I miss you. I almost laughed. I turned to look at her, studying her face. She looked tired, worn down. Reality had finally caught up with her. I didn't respond. I just waited. She took a deep breath. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. I raised an eyebrow. Which part? Replacing me at your wedding or coming to me for money right after? She flinched. She hadn't expected me to be so blunt. I never meant to hurt you, she said softly. I sighed. But you did. She nodded slowly. Another silence. Finally, she spoke again. When these things have been hard. Brian is struggling to find work. We're living with his mom right now, but it's not great. There it was. The real reason she had called me. I waited for the request for the "can you help us?" or the "just until we get back on our feet." But it didn't come. Instead, she just looked at me, as if waiting for me to offer. The old me would have. The old me would have stepped in, pulled out my wallet, fixed everything, and reassured her that no matter what, Daddy would always take care of her. But that version of me was dead, and I wasn't bringing him back. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "Why tell me something, Anna?" She blinked. "What? Did you ever really see me as your father, or was I just the man who paid for things?" Her face paled. "Dad, that's not fair." "Tent, isn't it?" I interrupted. "Because when I look back, that's all I see. I was good enough to raise you, good enough to pay for college, to support you, to be there for everything. But the moment something big happened, the moment you could have acknowledged me, I gestured around us to pick someone else." She had no defense. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked away, and didn't think it would matter that much. She finally whispered. I let out a breath. There it was. The truth. It didn't matter to her. Until now. Until she had nothing left. She turned back to me, eyes pleading. I just want my dad back." I stared at her for a long moment. Then I stood up. "I was never gone, Anna. You were." Her face crumbled. "Oh, Dad, please." I shook my head. "I'm not angry anymore. I don't hate you, but I also don't trust you, and I don't think I ever will again." She looked broken, but I didn't let it sway me. This was the choice she had made, and now she had to live with it. I turned to leave. She didn't try to stop me. She just sat there, watching me walk away. And as I left, I felt no regret, no guilt, only freedom. I had spent 20 years sacrificing, giving, and always being the one to hold everything together. But standing in that park, watching Anna sit there, defeated, realizing too late what she had lost, I felt nothing. No anger, no pain, not even satisfaction, just freedom. I walked away without looking back. I didn't check my phone, waiting for a follow-up message. I didn't wonder if she'd try again in a few days. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what happened next, because I wasn't their safety net anymore. It's funny how life can change so drastically when you stop carrying other people's burdens. At first it felt strange, quiet, too quiet. No more texts from Linda reminding me of some bill she expected me to cover. No more phone calls from Anna pretending to check in but really just softening me up for another financial favor. No more being the man who everyone expected to be there, no matter how badly they had treated me. I moved forward, step by step. I redecorated my apartment, bought things I liked for once. I wasn't making choices for anyone but myself. I picked up old hobbies, woodworking, running, reading books that had sat on my shelf for years collecting dust. I spent time with friends, real friends, people who had stood by me when my own family had turned their backs. And slowly, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving. I was finally living. 3 months after I walked away from Linda, she sent me the divorce papers. She didn't reach out first. No final words, just a packet in the mail, cold and impersonal, like the last 20 years of our marriage had meant nothing. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the document for a long time. Then, without hesitation, I signed it. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel sad. Because by the time the ink dried, I had already been gone for months. I expected silence after that, but Linda wasn't done. One evening, I got home from work, and there she was, standing outside my apartment building, looking like a woman who had finally realized she had nothing left. I didn't want to talk to her, but I also wasn't going to hide. So I walked up, calm and unbothered, while she watched me with eyes that had none of the confidence, none of the power she once held over me. "What do you want, Linda?" She exhaled sharply, crossing her arms. I just needed to see you." I didn't say anything. I just waited, because this wasn't my burden to carry anymore. She hesitated, then finally spoke. "Oh, I miss you." I stared at her, unimpressed. "Aunt, is that right?" She swallowed hard. "I made a mistake." That made me laugh, a slow, bitter laugh. "Well, yeah, Linda, you did." Her face twisted, like she wasn't expecting me to agree so easily, like she thought I would soften, that I would let her back in. But that man didn't exist anymore. She sighed, so I thought maybe we could talk. I tilted my head. "On about what? How you threw me away for another man? How you watched me sit alone at my daughter's wedding while your boyfriend took my place? Or maybe we could talk about how, the moment things went wrong, you came crawling back because you finally realized that the only man who actually cared about you was me?" Her jaw clenched. "So I didn't come here for a fight. Why are you here?" She took a deep breath. "Because I still care about you." I sighed, shaking my head. "No, you don't." Her eyes widened. "Yes, I do." "Oh no." I cut her off, my voice sharp. "Until you care about what I could do for you. You care about what I gave you. You never cared about me. And I don't owe you anything, Linda. Not anymore." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel anything at all. Because this conversation should have happened years ago, before she betrayed me, before she replaced me, before she made it clear that my love, my loyalty, my presence had only ever been a convenience to her. She sniffed, then whispered, "So that's it? We're just done?" I looked at her, taking in the face of the woman I had once loved, the woman I had built a life with, the woman who had thrown it all away for a fantasy that had crumbled the second real life kicked in. And I felt nothing, not hate, not love, not regret, nothing. "We're not just done, Linda. We've been done a long time ago." I stepped back, giving her one final unwavering look. "Goodbye, Linda." And then I walked away. And this time, she didn't try to stop me. Weeks passed. The divorce was finalized. Linda had no reason to reach out again. And Anna, she stayed silent. Until one day, I got a text. It was short, simple, and yet it carried the weight of everything that had happened. "Dad, I know I hurt you. I know I failed you. But you will always be my father. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. I thought about the little girl who had called me undaddy, with so much love in her voice. The teenager who had cried in my arms after her first heartbreak. The woman who had replaced me on the most important day of her life. I knew I could forgive her, but I also knew I couldn't forget. So I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I didn't reply. Because I was already gone. The end, or maybe the beginning. It's been 2 years now, and if you had told me back then that I would be sitting here, happy, free, without them, I wouldn't have believed you. But I am. I rebuilt my life. I made peace with my past. And I finally understand what I never did before. Not everyone deserves your love. Not everyone appreciates the sacrifices you make. And some people only see your value when you're no longer there to fix their problems. But that's not my burden to carry anymore. Not now, not ever again. Because I was already gone.